All right, everybody. I hope you guys are having an amazing night. Welcome. It's so wonderful to be here. Um, okay, I think we are good in our sound and everything. Let me just check really quickly. It took a long time to go live today. Okay, awesome. Welcome. I missed you guys so much. It's been such a long time since I've seen you. It is such an honor to be here as always. And so I'm not sure where we're live right now. I think we're live in two different places. But anyway, okay, so today we're going to continue with our challenge as we are discussing integrating the laws of life and death and understanding that how to integrate them into our healing. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about today. I know we talked about two separate parts about this. We actually left off in our last video. We were talking about how we are aligning with the cycles of Earth, of nature, and how when you align the organism in alignment with nature, the body comes into harmony and into alignment. So the next layer of that is really talking about the cycles of life and death in relation to what is it that we are deprogramming? What is it that we're healing? We talked about ancestral healing. We talked about deprogramming, ancestral trauma. So let's go deeper into that, okay? Let me come over here and I want to share with you a presentation about this, but there are a couple elements that I want you guys to focus on when we talk about this. And one of them is that we want to understand the subconscious cycles, okay? So when we're talking about life and death, what are we really talking about? We're talking about what are the subconscious cycles that go into repetition. And so from the concept that if we continue to go into unconscious cycles, you are literally walking in the direction of death. Okay. Why? Because that is that's the centrifugal spin of the body, our multidimensional body being a fractal of infinite potential, being this incredible vortex of life force that is a conduit of life force in the body, begins to go into cyclical patterns. And those cyclical patterns are extremely stagnant. Those cyclical patterns of stagnation essentially move towards death. Okay, so the question is in this incredible challenge of life and death, how do we transmute all of the parts of us that are moving towards a death of unconscious states, an unconscious state of death in which the body goes into repetitive cycles? What is it that we're repeating? Okay, so this is what I really want to share with you tonight. I want to share with you tonight about the cycles that we are repeating that lead us into a death and how do we transmute and transform that. So let me go ahead and open this presentation. I'm going to share it with you now. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Robert. Hello, Grandizers. So great to see you guys. I've missed you and I'm so happy to see you guys here as well. It is such an honor to connect with you. And I hope you've all been doing great. I hope your meditations have been doing amazing. My sessions this week have been extremely powerful, a lot of major changes and transformations for a lot of people. So if you are one of those people that's experiencing major transformation, definitely put it in the chat, connect with me and let me know what you're going through, because this is a major theme for April. Was transformational experiences. And one of the themes of this week specifically that I want to share with you is about taking a look at these cyclical patterns that are re-emerging in a deeper form. So how are some of the deep programs that you are not breaking that are causing, you are kind of becoming very aware of the deeper programs that you have been hiding for a long time. And so the purpose of that is for deep healing. So if you guys are feeling these cycles emerging very powerfully right now, they are definitely an invitation for healing. So let me take a look. Let me share this with you. Hello, Nikki. So wonderful to see you. Eugene, so great to see you. Oh, I missed you guys. I missed you guys. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we are going to talk about subconscious cycles versus conscious flow. Okay. This is really huge. Freedom Now says yes, cycles are emerging very strongly. Exactly. I'm seeing that everywhere in everything. Um, so a couple points that I put together here. I just put together this presentation because I thought it was really important to have a concise overview of the topics that you and I are going to be discussing tonight. Let's talk about the influences, and this is really the most important part. Okay, this is the most important part, is to understand what are the cycles. When we talk about life and death, um, death is a natural aspect of this existence. It is a natural aspect of creation. In fact, without death we cannot evolve. Without death we cannot grow, we cannot expand, we cannot come into this highest expression of our multitude, which is available to us. Okay, so when we are talking about what is it that we are transcending, what is it what is a death that is productive? Okay, we've talked about productive and non-productive deaths. And non-productive deaths are any time that we go into cyclical patterns in which we are repeating suffering and stagnation, unconscious states, hypnotic states of unconsciousness, that we are repeating things over and over. And what is it that we are repeating? There are main elements, and I want you to look at this list and just kind of remember this list when you are doing your shadow work, when you are doing your healing, when you begin to observe the cyclical patterns that begin to emerge in your life that are very difficult for you to break and for healing. As you begin to observe things that cause you suffering, okay? Why is it so difficult to break these suffering patterns? So I want you to observe. We're going to go from matter, we're going to go in a cycle from the non-physical, the psychological, the non-tangible, the creative, the non-physical creation of man, all the way to the biology, to the electromagnetic field of the body, the morphogenetic field, going into the Akashic record and into the greater picture, which is the larger influences that influence you as a human. Okay, so when we are talking about transformation and change, we need to take into account that what we're breaking, the cycles that you are here to break. So your purpose for incarnation in this timeline that we are all sharing right now, the purpose for your incarnation is a manifestation of cycles of ancestral programs that have manifested into form your soul that has anchored now into this physical realm. This is really huge because it plays a role in your identification of your purpose, what you're here to do. And I'm not talking about purpose as doing. I'm talking about purpose as in the higher essence of yourself. Okay? So what are you here to do as a soul? The purpose of the soul. Now, the purpose of the soul is essentially experiential evolution. It is evolution through experience. Okay, so that's the first thing that we have to remember. There is no right or wrong experiences. There's no need to compartmentalize your experiences, but there is the mechanisms and the architecture of this realm that we do need to understand very deeply. And we need to understand them in order to understand what is evolving, how are we evolving, when are we evolving in the bigger picture of things. Okay, so what are the things that influence human organism through this experiential evolutionary experience on the planet as you incarnate into the physical? There's a psychological influence, which is programming. These are your thoughts and the things that input and trigger emotions within you. The next is your biochemical influence, which is essentially the emotional system, the bioelectrical emotional system. The next are your genetic influences, your ancestral programming, your DNA, the history and information that is encoded within the DNA, and then your family. The next is the collective, the hive mind, the collective unconscious, the collective consciousness. This is cultural conditioning, social engineering, religious, sex, race, all of these physical elements that participate in collective understanding of the matrix that we are co-creating and participating in. And the next layer to that is the self-organizing intelligence of the earth, which essentially participates in creating a structure for social engineering to be carried out. What do I mean by that? The organic dynamics of what you are as an organism incarnating and into the physical has a very specific architecture, and it's basically how you function. It's the blueprint of yourself as a human, your biological element, bioelectrical element, the morphogenetic field, understanding the manifestation of your psychology and when it emerges as a product of the blueprint. All of that is an architecture, and there is a self-organizing intelligence to that that is both in your physical body, but it's also taking in its forming and its organizing as a product of the collective organization, okay? And this collective organization is a major influence when these darker systems of control understand these self-organized systems before we even become aware of them. And unfortunately, we don't become aware of them because we're disconnected from nature. We're disconnected from our true self. And we take on a massive amount of indoctrination very early on that separates us away from the true essence of the body, which is your core life force. So these self-organizing intelligence plays a major role in the process of decoupling yourself from the severing of yourself from your soul. Okay, so the Akashic and interdimensional contracts. Now, this is the architecture, you could say, the higher mind or the universal psychology of the self-organizing intelligence. Okay, so how does this bigger information manifest in a self-organized archetypal system? Okay, so this infinite potential, how do we organize that? And then amongst all of these millions of humans on the planet Earth. So the planet Earth has a self-organizing mechanism. There is an order which is based on frequency, exactly how your body functions. You have 7 chakras, 7 hertz of frequencies that are being processed through this organism. The planet Earth has the same. So the Akashic Records is the memory bank of the greater of what you are. And so as we begin to activate that, this plays a major influence in what you are programmed and deprogrammed with, okay? So healing involves the deprogramming of these greater influential memories, okay? And this is going into ancestral programs and also past lives and so on and so forth. Cosmic influences, okay? So this self-organizing system, what are the cosmic influences that influence the human? This is basically talking about archetypes and also astrology, but those are in the way that we understand them and how they've been presented to us. But there's a greater self-organizing system beyond that. These cosmic influences of the greater intelligence, not the human body, but the collective organism has a certain intelligence, and so that becomes a cosmic influence to us. So next will be the archetypal influence. Okay, so there are 13 main houses of energy, which we hold within this body. They are also the astrological signs, and they're also the archetypal frequencies that we hold within the intelligence of the higher mind. And within all of that, we want to understand the soul contract and the experiential for experiential evolution. So essentially, why did you manifest into the physical? Why did you come into this matrix to begin with? How did you embody and choose to come into this physical realm in order to experience all of these layers that you're experiencing at this moment? So these are some of the main elements that are the influence of human. And in order to transcend, essentially, we want to understand how to fix that, how to transcend that, how to break those cyclical patterns. So let's talk about the cycles within the matrix. So first of all, we have to understand we are beginning to activate dormant DNA. Okay, so all the genetic history of everything that you are, the greater essence, your greater essence, which is expressed in many dimensions simultaneously, in this dimension and many other dimensions. All of that memory it's dormant in your DNA, in the holographic genetic memory. And so as you begin to wake up consciousness, you begin to remember who you are, you begin to collect your memories through your self-healing. Okay, you begin to activate that memory of your traumas in this lifetime, which will be the gateway and the initiation into the collective traumas through your genetic history, to your ancestral trauma. That is the dormant DNA that will be initiation into your interdimensional aspects of yourself. So your past life, your future lives, the purpose of your soul in experiencing all of these layers of experience through different selves, different manifestations, different frequencies, different dimensions. All of that is encoded in your dormant DNA. And essentially, you are accessing that information. How do we break that dormant DNA? Is that essentially you are removing yourself from a hypnotic state of unconsciousness. And that hypnosis that you are beginning to wake up from is all of the indoctrination and the programming that you have taken on for generations as a collective soul. And essentially, it's the recognition of why you have made the experiential contracts that you've made. Okay. You forget what you are. So all of the aspects of yourself that fall into a dormant unconscious state, that forget who you are, that forget the bigger picture of you. It is very important for you as a soul to remember who you are in all the lifetimes, and especially how you have become who you are in this lifetime. Okay, that's the number one step. How have you become who you are in this lifetime begins in the womb. But those programs are ancestrally passed down through your ancestral lineage. So as you begin to remember your past lives within your ancestral lineage, you begin to reconnect these emotions, okay? Repeating karmic cycles. So once you begin to uncover these ancestral karmic cycles, you can begin to realize what is it that you are repeating over and over again, okay? And now you have an opportunity for ending those cyclical karmic cycles. This is extremely important when you are working with your soul evolutionary contracts, because many times you're not going to even realize what kind of contracts you have with other people until you begin to understand what you repeat. Okay. And once you realize that, then you can begin to deprogram, then you begin to heal and break those cyclical patterns. Those same cyclical patterns are going to be are going to reveal themselves in many layers. So the same karmic cycle that you're repeating with your mother now is the same karmic cycle you've been repeating with the divine feminine for generations, whether you incarnate as a man or a female or even in some interdimensional being. It is the way that you manage that life force within you. Okay, so this is extremely important in the way that you are manifesting that information. And to break those cycles is simply the rebalancing of the imbalanced dualistic energies. That is simply what we're doing, okay? And I'll talk about that in just a second. Another element within this matrix that is a major distraction to the remembering of the self or the awakening of the dormant DNA is that you fail to heed the call of awakening, which means that you're going through many levels of accidents that are moving you and waking you up, dramas, problems, fights, accidents, physical injuries, illnesses, major life changes in the direction that you resist. All of these are invitations for you to come back into the alignment of harmony with your soul and to recognize those experiential contracts as soon as possible so that you can begin to bring yourself back into alignment with yourself. And the alignment with the self is coming back to divinity. It's coming back to that, the awareness of yourself as this greater expression beyond this little personality that you've created in order to survive these cyclical matrix programs. So it's extremely important that you begin to follow that calling. And when that calling emerges to wake up consciousness and to begin to break these cyclical patterns, that you actually follow through with those, okay? Karmic entanglement. So this is very deep into an understanding of what happens when you don't break those cyclical patterns of karma. What ends up happening is that you create entanglement. And the way that this soul is structured, every time that you create more karma for yourself, you are entangling yourself further into the matrix. And entanglement is both genetic and it's energetic, okay? How is it genetic? Entanglement occurs when we are, our energy, first of all, there's many layers to entanglement, but let me talk about the metaphysical aspect of it, the biophysical part of it, is that the fractalization of the soul that occurs through trauma, which is when your brain cannot process a certain traumatic experience. Okay, the brain cannot process a certain traumatic experience. This causes fractalization within yourself. The fractalization within yourself disconnects the soul from the physical body and its biology. Okay, so that trauma repeated over time is building neural pathways. Those neural pathways are entanglement with programs psychologically, but we also have neural or bio pathways that connect from the entire organism into the external. The external being a projection of frequency, which is mirrored through temporary experiences. Okay? It's important to understand that you are a network of frequency. And all the things that you are experiencing are really rather a manifestation of frequencies. You are a frequency. What you engage with is a frequency. And how you come into contact with those frequencies are through coherence and resonance. Okay, so when we come into resonance with things, we create an entanglement opportunity. And this can be a wonderful opportunity for expansion, but it can also be an opportunity for de-evolution, one can say, which is similar to stagnation or counter creation. Okay, so it is the failure to be able to create something. And that means that your body is spinning in a counter creative form, which is centripetal, centrifugal, in which your life force is depleting externally. Your life force, instead of intentionally redirecting for creation, is being depleted through counter creation. And the counter creation is being redirected to the resonance of lower frequency, non-creative forms and activities and programs, which create massive energy systems in your body, which we know as blockages. Okay, so those blockages essentially become a network of stagnation. Over time, low slow moving frequencies accumulated in the body end up as illness, stagnation, lack of creation. Okay. Now, what happens in entanglement, karmic entanglement, is that this process of creating non-creation in your organism is something that is passed down through generations. So when you're breaking a pattern of counter creation in your life, you're not only breaking the pattern that you have tapped into through this ancestral lineage that you're healing. Remember, you are a healer of ancestral lineages. That's the purpose of your manifestation. So when you're not healing that manifestation of collective trauma within your ancestral lineage, you become deeper entangled with the other players that are in resonance to you. So this can be very karmic relationships. It can be children that are created as a result of karmic relationships. And these soul entanglements, remember that, first of all, unions and partnerships are mirror of your frequency. Children that are born from those unions are fractals of your soul. Okay, so every time that we multiply or we co-create something, an element of our life force is infused in the creation. Okay, and so the humans that we create are basically an entanglement, and the more humans that you create, you become more entangled in this matrix, which makes it difficult to transcend unless you master and you understand the 0 point. Okay. And we must, because that's what it means to become whole. As you multiply, let's say procreate on this planet Earth, if you procreate programs of suffering through your children, you are creating and anchoring suffering into the planet Earth. If you heal yourself, you are anchoring and procreating programs of healing for this earth. And so these can elevate you into a higher octave every lifetime that you are doing this. So the difference between creation and counter creation is that you are healing, you are becoming whole. So the more that you become whole in this lifetime through your actions, your creations, your experiences, the more that you bring healing and anchor into the collective. Repeating unconscious cycles of karma essentially refer to several different elements in our biology, and we're going to talk about all of them. There is the biochemical addiction to suffering, which has to be broken in order to be able to transcend. There's the lack of memory, so the recovery through internal integration of these experiences, the remembering who you are, remembering your many past lives, and recognizing who you are. And then it is the failing to recognize your participation in the suffering. So, of course, now that you remember, your programs, you become aware of your addictions to suffering. You now become aware of your participation in your own suffering. And this is very much a biochemical, bioelectrical process, but this is connected to the cycles of accidents that we come into. Next is failing to break repetitive patterns of suffering. So because of our addictions to suffering, because of our addictions of any kind, we begin to be okay and be comfortable in those states of suffering. Okay, so the invitation for you as a soul is, are you ready to break those cycles of suffering? Another element of repetitive cycles of karma is confusion. Okay, you are disconnected from your source and you experience separation very severely. You are deeply confused about who you are, what you're doing here, your purpose. All of those things become very confusing to you and very difficult to manifest into the physical. And of course, valuing the external over the internal. So this is extremely important for you, all of you light workers that are trying to completely change the way that you are creating in this realm. But you need to notice when you will value the external physical experience over the internal, the non-physical. And this is a very powerful choice that humans are really needing to do at this time. The more that we don't make this choice, the more that we participate in the suffering of the collective, okay, as we mentioned earlier. So let's talk about psychological influence of programming, okay? Number one, how do we heal this? We identify your emotional cycles, okay? What are the emotions? We talk about this in meditation every time that we do work together, either in DNA reprogramming or whether you are following one of my challenge meditations that we've been doing, okay? The whole point is that you identify what is the emotion that you keep going into. Simple. Yesterday, last week, last month, chances are it's the same emotion over and over again. Recognize it. And how do you transform that is by feeling it fully, okay? So here's when we really need to get into that, okay? As we identify those repetitive emotions, you're going to begin to also identify repetitive behaviors, right? Because with those emotions are triggers, reactions, there's biochemical responses, bioelectrical responses, and then, of course, there are the major life choices that we have built around these repetitive behaviors, around these repetitive emotions. Yeah, that's huge. And the more that you ignore that, the more that you're going to go down into the cycle of suffering that you're going to generate into generations. Okay, so this is the price of waking up, is that you understand and take responsibility for how much suffering you cause yourself, which is then reflected into this world. Okay, identifying relationships, your relationship with creation, right? So what is your relationship with creation? Are you in a constant state of resistance? Are you in a constant state of stagnation? Are you in a constant state of fear? Do you doubt yourself? Do you reject yourself? Do you hate yourself? Right? So what is your relationship with creation? So if you said yes to any of those that I just mentioned right now, you are in a state of counter creation. Because in order for you to create, we must integrate, right? The feminine with the masculine, which means that you accept all parts of you, your shadow and your light. And as long as you continue to resist either side of that, you are not able to come into creation and co-creation. Extremely important fundamental law. So as you identify these programs of counter creation, so worthlessness, how you feel about the embodiment of yourself. I keep hearing over and over again people saying, oh, I don't belong here. I wasn't supposed to be born here. I was forced to incarnate into this planet. All of those are very limited counter creative perceptions that are extremely temporary truths, potentially based on a very limited perception. Because the greater picture is that there is a powerful self-organizing intelligence to this organism, which you are participating as an intelligent organism that has come into manifestation, okay? In other words, there's no random anything. There isn't a single particle on this existence that is random, that is not somehow interconnected to another, which defines its purpose in some way, okay? And remember that the definition of purpose is an ever evolutionary experience. That is the whole point, is that we are ever evolving. They identify the root and counter creative beliefs systems. So again, that you are understanding your belief systems, which are structural systems in your bioelectrical body. They are neural pathways, they are nervous system programs, they are eating habits, biome programs, generational programs. So these are the things that have to be broken for this psychological influence in order to transcend. So let's talk a little bit about the biochemical aspect of this as we go into pathways of output, right? So what are we outputting into the system? Let's talk about addiction a little bit. Addiction is one of the most powerful aspects of co-creation and counter-creation. Anytime that you are stuck in addiction, any kind of addiction, you are looping, absolutely looping. Okay, so let's talk about what happens and let's talk about the reward pathways. Okay, so I'm gonna give you this image here, and I'm gonna read exactly what this is about. Okay, there's a lag time. Okay, so um, okay, so these are the pathways of the brain that are creating certain stimuli. They are responsible for creating information runways in your body. Okay. So figure one, three dopamine pathways and their related cognitive process. Most of your dopamine is generated deep in the midbrain, and it is released in many different areas across the brain. These areas are largely responsible for behaviors associated with learning, habit forming, and addiction. So important thing to look at here is that these different parts of these systems are also relating to evolutionary stages. They're also relating to creator states. Okay, if you are in a state of separation and survival, you are operating from the part of your brain that is specifically designed for survival. And it's also deeply connected to pleasure, to reward, to seeking behaviors. It is deeply, deeply connected to addiction, to emotions, and perception. Okay, so that's really huge. This is the lower mind, which is functioning out of survival. Your perception is tainted by emotions. Therefore, it is very difficult for you to access truth. It is very difficult to see truth, recognize truth, feel truth through your body because you are a sensory organism. So, addiction, any form of addiction that you are embodying at this time, is maintaining your body addicted to these systems neurologically, biochemically. We are stuck within those repetitive cycles. And we like it. We like it. It's comfortable. It's become a survival for us. Okay. These systems are then deeply connected with our movement and sensory stimuli, right? Because the sensory stimuli system is connected to your pineal gland, which at the end of the night, when you are resting, will create the melatonin for you to sleep. Okay. So the more stationary you are, the less melatonin you create, the less you're able to sleep. Okay. So the more, and also this connected to a very busy mind that is completely in a constant state of hypnosis, not in the present moment, disconnected from the body, completely disconnected from the senses of the body, and yet addicted to repetitive sensations, is completely disconnected from their truth. Okay. And of course, looking at the cognition of the body, the memory, the attention, the emotional behavior, and learning, it cannot be accessed when we are mostly moving from the lower functioning of the brain. Now, in the same way that we are operating from these lower systems of the brain, the multidimensional body is mimicking this. So I just want you to remember this chart when you're looking at other systems. So let's talk really quickly about reward pathways. While the reward pathways, which is the image that I just showed you right now, are distinct in their anatomical organization, all three become active when anticipating or experiencing rewarding events. In particular, they reinforce the association between a particular stimulus or sequence of behavior and the feel-good reward that follows. Every time a response to a stimulus results in a reward, these associations become stronger, okay, neural pathways, through a process called long-term potentiation. This process strengthens frequently used connections between brain cells called neurons by increasing the intensity at which they respond to particular stimuli. Okay, so that is the process of addiction. So what happens? Research in reward learning and addiction, so check this out, have recently focused on a feature of our dopamine neurons called reward prediction error encoding. Okay, so very much like a system, like a computing system. These prediction errors serve as dopamine mediated feedback signals in our brain, I'm going to show you in a second what that means. This neurological feature is something casino owners have used to their advantage for years. If you've ever played slots, you have experienced the intense anticipation while those wheels are turning. The momentum between the lever pull and the out can provide a time for our dopamine neurons to increase their activity, creating a rewarding feeling just by playing the game. It would be no fun otherwise. But as a negative outcome accumulates, the loss of dopamine activity encourages us to disengage. Thus, a balance between the positive and negative outcome must be maintained in order to keep our brains engaged. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is extremely interesting, okay? We literally are addicted to that anticipation. And this is the scientific proof of what is happening to you when you are not existing in the present moment. Okay? So this is the scientific proof, biochemical proof of what happens when you are addicted to not the present moment. And this is a major, major program that is participant of the separation program of the matrix, which is an artificial structure of reality. We are addicted to illusion, things that do not exist, the past, which no longer exists, and the future, which also does not exist. In fact, we are incapable of coming into the present moment, biochemically and bioelectrically, okay? So, when you look at this reward prediction and subsequent dopamine activity, unexpected rewards increase the activity of dopamine neurons, acting as positive feedback signals for the brain regions associated with the preceding behavior. As learning takes place, the timing of this activity will shift until it occurs upon a cue alone, with the expected reward having no additional effect. And should the expected reward not be received, dopamine activity drops, sending a negative feedback signal to the relevant parts of the brain, weakening the positive association. Okay, so we want to understand biochemically what is happening to you when you experience suffering, and also when you stop suffering. Okay, so literally we are addicted to that. Even if the emotion is negative, we are addicted to these systems. And so let's begin to merge the body. Okay, we talked about psychological, biochemical. Let's go deeper into this, into the physiological element of that. So what happens when we start to experience these addictions to these emotions is that we start to experience them biologically, biophysically in the body. And physiologically, they start to manifest as biochemical markers in the body, okay, which release through the endocrine system chemicals that then create either inflammation, positive movement and flow in the body, or not. Just like the creative system of the greater organism. If you are in a state of stagnation, you cannot create. If the body is in a state of stagnation, it cannot create within its own organism. Okay, so take a moment to observe how you are processing the feminine and masculine energies. These two energies are encoded in every aspect of your organism. The creation and the counter-creation is the yin and the yang, the positive and negative elements, which are then manifested into the physical. If you do not integrate the yin and yang, if you do not integrate the positive and negative energies, if you do not integrate these creative and counter-creative life force energies within yourself, within your psychology, within your biology, you cannot come into harmony and coherence with the greater whole. So these are things that have to be done in the body. And within the organism, what they look like is the following. Okay, each one of the organs are connected to emotions. Biochemically, there are chemicals that are secreted for this. We'll talk about in just a moment. Fear with the kidneys, anger with the liver, sadness with the lungs, joy and broken heart, or let's say lack of love in the heart, worry in the spleen. Okay, so these are all within the endocrine system that are being affected in the body. We begin to work with these systems. So this is why I want you to observe what is the emotion that you most feel throughout the week. And you're going to know which one of your organs are the weakest, which one of your organs has the most complication, the most difficulty in a state of flow of creation. Okay. So let's talk about the nervous system and the chemicals. What happens? How does this connect to the endocrine system? Guess what? The endocrine system is your chakra body. Okay, so understanding deeply the connection between the bioelectrical and emotional nervous system, this bioelectrical hormonal system is triggered directly by these bioelectrical systems. Okay, the pituitary gland is managing these hormones. It secretes many different hormones, some of which affect other glands. Okay, the hypothalamus, the thyroid, we just talked about that earlier, but I want you to be very familiar with this chart. Each one of these endocrine systems is connected to your chakra body. It also will define your perception because, again, perception is created by emotions, okay? The nervous system, which is the bioelectrical system of your body, which is also deeply as a product of the emotional body. Okay, so a lot of you ask me, how are the emotions connected to electrical charges? Well, your perception, which is created by these bioelectrical charges, create biochemical secretions in the body. Okay, they are deeply interconnected. So you need to regulate these systems by managing your emotions, by training your body to come into harmony, which means to regulating, to come into a regulating organism. The nervous system is creating signals through the brain, which are functioning by creating neural pathways, okay, which then affects your autonomic nervous system and your somatic nervous system. And you have heard before that all illnesses have a somatic root. Well, this is the system that is deeply connecting and programming those deep programs. Some of these are ancestral traumas. Some of these are soul contractual agreements that you have decided to undertake in your physical body. Okay, and these then come out into the physical manifestation. Okay, so what happens when the human is externally looking outside of themselves rather than in the internal? When people mistrust themselves, they look for authority. They look for something outside of themselves. Okay, so what happens when we do not come into this co-creation, this ability? Look at this quote from the I Ching. When people do not dread authorities, then the greater dread descends. Okay, this is really huge. Okay, so there's a greater dread, which the human comes into a greater state of separation. Do not crowd their dwellings. Do not make them wary at their work. If you do not make them wary, they will not be wary of you. Therefore, the sage knows himself, but does not parade. He cherishes himself, but does not praise himself. He discards the one and chooses the other. Okay, so if you understand the connection between this and what I'm telling you, the redirection of your attention into the internal self, the integration of yourself into a harmonious state, not an imbalanced state in which the ego overruns your perception, but rather the self-authority that comes from the self as an integration is actually one of the most powerful elements of co-creation. Alex, thank you so much for that super chat. Thank you so much. All my love. Love you. Let's talk about genetic programming. Programs are generated by the master genetic program. Okay, well, who is the master genetic program? That is the matrix. The code in the DNA, this is the code in the DNA of the blueprint of man. Okay, so this master genetic matrix is essentially where the blueprint of your DNA emerges. Man is then manifest into the physical and takes on the programming. The selection of your lineages that you are born into based on evolutionary soul experiential agreements. The contractual agreements that you make coming into this realm to experience polarity is what essentially creates the children that you are creating, the next generations that you anchor into this world. So what are these parasitic systems of the matrix that try to deviate you away from your soul connection? Your addictions, your belief in separation is manifest into the physical to the point where we come into profound suffering. Okay, that profound separate makes you see everything as separate, everything as a war, everything as an elite and a poverty, everything as power and disempowerment. So this is a false genetic reality. It's a false genetic construct that you are born into through the matrix, which we are deprogramming. This is what you're breaking. So when you talk about healing and breaking certain belief systems, this is exactly what we are beginning to work at with. So what are we working in these bloodlines of separation, right? As you come into this matrix of suffering and separation, we are looking at something very interesting called socially engineered trauma. Okay. So within the matrix creates the illusion of trauma and separation, and it's something that is deeply embedded in our psyche. We have to wake up consciousness from this false matrix. The socially engineered trauma refers to the traumatic events rooted in the forces of oppression and inequality, and is the manifestation of the non-random distribution of trauma exposure, which is unequal. An unequal society. Okay. In other words, socially engineered trauma is a result of systems of power that privilege some groups while disadvantage others. This is a social implant that generated a false identity. This has uncoupled us from our core life force. Okay. So this implantation of belief system that we abide by when we are immersed into the matrix is one that creates profound, deep belief systems of a false trauma. And this is something that it's a very deep element of your spiritual awakening. But trauma is part of an illusionary overlay that is a product of the matrix. So you as a soul are infinite potential. You do not exist in trauma because you are an infinite potential that temporarily incarnates into the physical to experience separation. And the biology of your construct requires these biochemical experiences and addictions to suffering and separation in order to experience that separation. So to regain power over yourself, to regain sovereignty over yourself, means that you wake up from the illusion of this matrix, okay? The illusion, and these are inherited and passed down through bloodlines. The hybridization program, both embedded encoded within your DNA, ancestrally, interdimensionally, even up until the 13-dimensional layers of this matrix, which means that even in dream time, we are playing out these collective traumas that we are experiencing in the body. What happens as a result is that the human creates identities. Again, entanglement programs, karmic entanglement programs that continues to keep the soul entangled into the physical. What are the false identities that you take on? Social programs that are very prevalent. They become extremely sophisticated at this moment, but we miss the subtle influences and the impact of this engineering. Okay, we are more deeply programmed and lost in the illusion of this false human than we are in the truth of what you are as a soul. We need to create autonomy. We need freedom from that. And we need to end the cycles that cause suffering and limitation within these illusionary constructs. Okay, what is being manipulated is the lower chakras. We talked about the endocrine system, bioelectrical, biochemical system. Those systems are managed by the lower chakras. The lower chakras which are defining you as what you are, as what you feel, and as what you do. This is your system to navigate the physical matrix. Okay? You need these chakras to navigate the physical matrix, but we are deeply manipulated. Okay? We are manipulated through the sensory system because of our lack of mastery over the sensation body. Through sound, what we hear, we are manipulated. Movies are designed to stimulate emotions. Films that you're watching, the Disney song immediately emotes emotions within you. Deep bass musics are programmed at hertz that stimulate your lower body, which literally makes you want to move your hips. Okay, that is frequency programming in your body, and you are biologically structured to respond to them. The question is, who is in control? When we allow the physical body to be in control, we lose sovereignty over creation. We disconnect from the source, the infinite potential that is available through the soul of the non-physical. Sex, we are deeply, deeply manipulated through our sex. Pleasure, we are chasing the carrot of pleasure by externalizing the need for the sensation body through sex. And sex is a biochemical charge in your body. So something stimulates a sexual thought, it creates a biochemical marker of pleasure in your body, and we begin to move towards that. This is a very powerful, powerful addiction of the subconscious and the collective. And humanity is drugged, it is literally slaved by the sensation body through our sexual body. Our sexual energy and the distribution of our sexual energy is one of the most powerful, is the most powerful creative life force that the human has. And when the human falls into the illusion of the false matrix of manipulation, we cannot control creation. Your sexual energy is creation. So the moment that you leak that sexual energy in any way, in any form, we are giving away our power in a centrifugal manner where your creation ability is leaving you as an organism. How do you transmute sexual energy into powerful creation? Unconditional love, love, pure love. The use of sex in love, pure love, with love, is actually the transmutation, and it's the ultimate creative power. Because when you use sexual energy in a state of love, you are actually accessing the frequency blueprint, the creator God state that is encoded within you. And this is also how you anchor healing into the planet. It's a completely different thing. So from the core system of sex comes touch, and it comes also the addiction of taste. Okay, you'll notice that when we don't have love in our lives, people that deprive themselves of love, people that are afraid of love, seem to move and gravitate towards food as a protective measure. And there is an entire biochemical biome that responds to that. Okay, so now we have a balanced organism. Okay, we crave sugars, we crave salts, we crave, and when you go deeper into the science of this, each one of your organs is going to tell you what it craves based on what you are depleted from. Okay, your cravings will tell you your depletions. Okay, so this is how we have to begin to observe, our mastery. Okay, so the identity and the ego is the false illusion. This identity, this little personality, is the false mask that is created as a result of these manipulations. Understand that. And so we want to deconstruct our personality to find the true core self, which is all and nothing simultaneously. In addition to that, the other layer that we were talking about is the collective. The same way that we organize the frequencies in the organism through the chakra, we also have to look at the self-organizing system on the planet Earth, which means that humans on this planet Earth are abiding by natural cycles of life force that move through the planet Earth that also stimulate waves of consciousness, either the suppression of consciousness or the expansion of consciousness for the collective. Solar activity participates in that. The Earth communicates with the sun. That communication is given frequencies and waves, bands of energy and information that is being passed from the sun to the Earth. The sun is an antenna for the greater collective organism, which essentially provides information on evolutionary cycles of humanity in the bigger picture. Each one of the chakras of the Earth picks up these waves, okay, of frequency information and translates into the microorganisms, which are the humans on this planet Earth. That's me and you. And me and you pick up this information through the greater whole. Now let's talk about the collective hive mind, okay? The greater picture of the collective knowledge. Why is it important for you to tap into your Akashic records and to remember who you are? It is very important to understand that collective knowledge is something that you have to awaken within yourself through the deprogramming of this matrix false construct. Collective knowledge is not limited by time and space. These are universal truths. And the more you align yourself with universal truths rather than temporary truths, the more you will heal and the more you will know yourself. The concept of collective knowledge is not limited to humans, which means that you become aware of your interdimensional elements. You want to talk about aliens, you want to talk about angels, you want to talk about whatever interdimensional manifestations in whatever form they might take. Awakening your DNA, activating your DNA, awakening your memory is the awakening of the collective morphogenetic field, which includes all genetic codes of manifestation of life. And that is embedded in your DNA. So we are talking about both physical and non-physical manifestations. This vast network of energy and everything which is deeply interconnected through your body is connected to your frequencies. The more that you activate and cultivate violet light within your body by meditating, by running energy, by clearing and deblocking matrix programming, you begin to open up your antenna to the higher mind. It is extremely important to do that because you begin to recognize these self-organizing systems within the hive mind of the organism and within yourself. We are influenced by these bigger, greater picture systems, by the environment, okay? We are also a product of matter and energy because it's through matter and energy that we are influencing and experiencing these experiential contracts. So we want to transcend these systems. How do you transcend them? By becoming all and nothing, by becoming matter and energy. Okay? By integrating the bridge between the matter and the energy. You are also abiding by larger systems, cosmic systems. As we mentioned, the sun is creating an organized system of information that provides information to all the planets. All the planets provide the information through the moon. The moon represents the mind in astrology. But the moon also fluctuates the emotional bioelectrical system of this earth, which is why we have high tide, low tide. The waters of the earth are stimulated and managed by the moon. This is a bioelectrical conduit. This is a bioelectrical system. You are a bioelectrical organism that is mostly water, that is also influenced by the moon. Until you wake up consciousness, begin to integrate the polarities within you in which you come into coherence with the earth. and then you come into coherence with the greater universe. And that is actually the whole purpose of that. The integration process, as I was mentioning, of the higher mind also requires you to integrate these archetypal. Every single lifetime, you take on one of these archetypes as a theme of your life. These themes are organized within your ancestral history. Every single one of your family members has a certain archetype that it's a master archetype, which is a master frequency. And then we are cycling through all archetypes throughout our entire life in a micro cycle. So that's yet another cycle that we must break, transcend in order to heal these patterns. Archetypes are innate, universal, preconscious psychic dispositions, allowing humans to react in a human manner as they form the subtle form which the basic themes of human life emerge. The archetypes are components of the collective unconscious and serve to organize, direct, and inform human thought and behavior. Okay, so you are an unconscious state, you're not going to even realize which one of these archetypes are running your subconscious programming. The sooner you realize, the easier it'll be for you to break those programs. Astrologically, it's important to understand that your astrological sign plays a role in identifying the archetype that is the master archetype of your life right now. It also helps you understand what house you're in the cycle of your greater evolutionary movement. And once you integrate all these astrological signs, archetypal parts of you, the 13 planets in your body, the 13 chakras in your body, you now become whole. You activate DNA. Your DNA is a manifestation of these 13 strands. They talk about 12-strand DNA. We have infinite strands of DNA, but within this matrix construct, we have 13 main strands of DNA that you are integrating. You are activating that genetic structure of yourself in order to become multidimensional. And that is the whole point, that we are coming into harmony. When you come into harmony internally and externally, you become multidimensional. That is the whole point. Okay, so the embodiment and the integration of your polarity is how you essentially come into the alchemy of creation. Okay, the transmutation of matter to creation states means that you are reclaiming your creativity. You are turning this prima materia, prime matter, prima materia. You are transmuting from this salt into the ethers, into the non-physical. Your physical body becomes the non-physical conduit of life force, of energy, which is permeated within this entire universe. We are learning how to transcend time and space and become the energy frequency which carries those into manifestation. Okay. Yeah. And essentially what happens is that the more you come into this unity, the further you get away from disorder. Okay. So what is healing? To resume this lecture, what is healing is that we are coming into order. We are coming into coherence. What does it mean to come into coherence? You align yourself with the greater systems, the greater organisms that influence this big picture. You deprogram the false programming that maintains you in separation into a unity consciousness. Okay, this is extremely important for us because the more that you come into coherence, the higher your frequency rises, which allows you to communicate with nature and with the greater frequency of the whole. The more you come into disconnect, the more you are separate from your greater connection to the whole. And this is essentially what it means to integrate life and death through your physical body. You now become a conduit for life. Because only when you are operating at a high frequency are you integrating the universe in your body, which allows you to come into a centripetal spin. Okay. The universe in your body, which allows you to come into a centripetal spin. And the centripetal spin is creation. Okay. My loves, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation. It was such an honor to share with you today. And I'm very happy to take just a couple questions. I know it's a little bit late, but let me go ahead and come into the chat here. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It's such an honor to connect with you. Big love, Lily Hayes. So wonderful to see you. Andrew, thank you so much for being here. Louisa, how do you master these chakras, like the longer process? Will you do a program on this? Yes, actually, I'm going to be doing a retreat on the chakras very soon. So I'll be very happy to share that with you soon. Am I frozen, guys? Tell me if I'm frozen. Okay, maybe I'm not. I'm going to be doing a retreat, so I want to invite you guys to please come in and join me for that when I post it up, but I would love to share that with you. Okay, how do you master them over time? So first of all, we need to first learn how to work with our chakra body. Okay, so number one step, learn how to run energy, which means simply start using the earth frequency and cosmic frequency to come into the 0 point. That's what running energy is. When you run that energy through the body, it begins to clear and deprogram the blockages of the false matrix, which you created within your body. This false belief systems have to be cleared out of the body. And that is all done through energy and frequency. Okay. So your body is an energy frequency processing organism. So clear out root, sacral, solar, all your chakras, and begin to use your intuition. Train your intuition to look into your body. Where do you have blockages? Where do you have images, memories that start to emerge? You cannot ignore that. You have to work with your body. And I have a lot of videos on that on this channel, so definitely check that out. But I will be posting a retreat very soon, so I hope you guys can join me for that. Okay, are more people being activated at this time? Absolutely, yes. And you see, it's not that we're being activated, it's that we are activating ourselves because we chose to incarnate in this timeline. There is no such thing as an existence without a purpose because we're so deeply interconnected. You see, in a web, if you pull one of the little strings of the web, the entire web moves. That's the universe. That's the construct of the universe. So no human can ever say that you manifest without a purpose or that you manifest at a wrong time. You literally exist in alignment with this manifestation timeline. And that means that you are designed for these evolutionary processes, which is why I spend so much time on this channel telling you this so that you can wake up consciousness and understand that your purpose at this time is to end cyclical programs and begin to heal yourself, your DNA. You are manifesting. Okay, so wake yourself, activate yourself, meditate, wake yourself up into that, remember yourself and embody that. Okay. I'm reading your messages here, Alex, sweetie, thank you so much. Grandizer says, I know it may not be up your field. I do hope you would switch gears and discuss covers El Gichi, mythological serpent found in the lakes and rivers of Bolivia, cryptids and monsters. I would love to do that. Actually, if any of you guys heard my interview with Jimmy Church, he's actually going to Bolivia. Bolivia is my family's country. That's where my family is from. So, you know, there's so much to talk about Bolivia. So yeah, I'll definitely be turning into some of that this year, Grandizer, and maybe we'll take a little excursion down there. So let me know if you guys are interested in going to Bolivia to study some of these things. But the energy centers and the portals that are in Bolivia are extremely powerful. So if those of you that might feel called to that, definitely join me for that. What is Adderall long-term effect on the body? I'm 22 days Adderall free, 15 plus years. Think I'm grateful. Wow, ageless. That's amazing. Congratulations. I really hope you keep it up, my love. Any stimuli in your neurological system is going to block you from being able to activate your higher faculties in some way. Some of us, we need those things. So please talk to your psychologist, your psychiatrist, to see what chemicals and pharmaceuticals are needed to rebalance the chemicals in your body. Now, because of the collective trauma that we have incurred for many generations, and because of the programming and trauma that we've incurred in this lifetime, our chemicals and the way that we shoot chemicals in the body are completely out of balance. Now, you can heal your body and bring the harmony back into the body, into a homeostasis, where you produce your own chemicals that are bringing your body into alignment. But for some people, there are major long-term traumas within the organism, especially in your neural system, in your biochemical system, in the endocrine system. And so that produces an imbalance and disharmony where you need some assistance, okay? But a lot of these drugs, again, they are programming from the system, and it's extremely important that you as a human really mindfully, carefully assess yourself, and begin to understand, why do you need them, and get to the root reason, get to the root of that, because you are an energetic system and you need to rebalance the disharmony that is occurring, the imbalance in the body, in order to heal. And sometimes that's all you need in order to heal. So, please make sure that you are talking to your doctors that you need, but at the same time, do the work to be able to get to the root core of that, because it's extremely important to be sovereign again, and as much as possible over this organism. And it's incredibly important to understand the mind over matter, especially emotional body, right? Because a lot of these psychiatric medications are usually given when there's a severe emotional imbalance, which is the imbalance of the yin and yang, okay? Is it normal to be seeing plant-like beings in my meditation? So yeah, take a look at what kind of beings you're looking at. Again, don't be afraid to communicate with the beings and ask for your contractual agreements. Why are you contracted to this being? There's no such thing as a manifestation coming forth without resonance, okay? So you have a certain frequency density within your frequency that is attracting these kinds of plant-like organisms, and you need to know why. It doesn't mean that you're going to attach to the reason or become identified with the reason, but you are learning about yourself. So always ask the questions, always look at your contracts, shine your crown light on top of the organism, take a look at the contract that emerges. What is it? What is the feeling? You notice the emotions and the memories that begin to emerge as you connect with the organism to begin to discern. Discernment is the name of the game. You are a frequency being, and so your ability to discern is the most important when it comes to interacting with beings, okay? Akroiga, Kaibar, I'm going to Bolivia. Really? When? That's awesome. Tell me about that. What are you doing down there? Hi, your take on 12 Shield and Merkaba. Yeah, so I'm not sure who came up with this concept, so I can't comment directly on that, but please take a look at many of my videos. I talk a lot about the Merkaba. The Merkaba light body is essentially one of the many forms that we can take in the physical body, and we have infinite dimensional layers to ourselves. So the 12th dimensional body is just one of the many forms that we need to learn how to master, okay? Right now, we're moving into the 24th dimensional structure. Many of you have already opened up your chakras into the 24 dimensions, but most importantly is that you integrate into the physical and anchor the mastery of your discernment into all these dimensional layers from here, okay? That's why you're here. So make sure that you are working with your physical, your traumas and the shadow work that's necessary to activate the DNA in that direction. Okay. Can I join you, Geraldine? Yes, I hope you can join me. Let me know when you're going and let's talk about that grandizer. Let's discuss that and let's make it. I know, Alex, I can't wait to go to the salt flats. Yes, let's go. Acroyang says, I live in Brazil and I think I can go to Bolivia. I can't go. US, I can't go because it's too expensive. Yeah, that's great. I hope you can join us. How beautiful, Brazil. I'm finally starting to feel better doing the work. I so appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ageless. I'm so happy to hear that. Guys, I love you so much. I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. Epoch 414 says, master the self and unlock new abilities. Yes, absolutely. Remember that you are a multidimensional being and you have a lot of tools in your toolbox that you need to access. But your higher faculties are based on the mastery over your emotional body, which is going to master your perception. The mastery of the perception is in the 0 point. Okay, so all of this work comes from the 0 point. You cultivate the 0 point, and from there emerges your higher faculties, which are your intuition, which you use the 0 point for discerning the intuition as a tool for navigation in your physical waking state, which is one dream state, and in your other dream states that you might be navigating. Okay. All right. Funny how at the end it's obvious the Earth connection, especially when we are sometimes more Neptunian. So it's a challenge. Yes, Earth connection. Thank you. Thank you, Louisa. Thank you, Geraldine, for your time inside taking questions, commentary. Truly an honor. It is my honor to be here with you. I love you so much, and I will see you soon. Good night. Bye-bye.